In my last video, we explored one side of baby mama culture, how toxic men sometimes deliberately get women pregnant, not out of love or a desire to build a family, but as a twisted form of control. For some men, fathering a child is less about legacy and more about laying claim. It's a manipulative power move, a way to permanently tether a woman to them, even if they have no intention of stepping up, providing, or being present. Some of these men believe that getting you pregnant reduces your value in the eyes of other men. It's like branding, not with love, but with ego. Remember what Offset said about Cardi B? "You're my baby mama, I won." That statement speaks volumes. In his mind, getting her pregnant wasn't just about building a family, it was about ownership. And the same thing happened to Wizard Liz. No matter what she does after this, she'll now be remembered by most as a relationship coach turned baby mama. I wouldn't be surprised if Landon pops up with some Red Pill podcast next year. The manosphere will eat it up. They love stories of women who lose by their definition. But in this video, part 2, we need to explore the other side, because it's not just men who manipulate reproduction to control women. Some women are doing the exact same thing, using pregnancy as a spiritual snare to trap men who were never aligned with them to begin with. There are women who see pregnancy as a power move, a tactic, a strategy. For some, a baby is not about creating life, it's about leverage. It's not about building a family, it's about forcing one. I have seen this personally. I know women who tracked their ovulation without telling their partner, women who tampered with condoms, women who used methods that were clearly deceitful to try to get pregnant, even when the man had made it clear he wasn't ready or willing to have a child. I knew this one woman who went so far as to collect semen from her husband and use a medical device to try and inseminate herself in secret. Not once, but 3 times. He made her terminate the pregnancy each time. And after all of it, she was never really the same. That kind of trauma doesn't just go away. You can bury it under affirmations and skincare routines, but your soul remembers. And let's not ignore the women chasing athletes, entertainers, and wealthy men, not for love, but for child support, for status, for a transactional win. In those situations, the child is often treated as a means to an end, a pawn in a game of control and financial gain. It's a form of spiritual exploitation. Draya is undeniably one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood, striking, successful, and seemingly with every opportunity to build a life rooted in love and stability. Yet, it's disheartening to witness her repeatedly choose a path that reduces her womb to a bargaining chip rather than a sacred vessel. Instead of building a legacy through a loving, committed partnership, she appears to treat motherhood like a transactional move, a way to secure financial gain through each child, rather than nurture life within the context of love and unity. This isn't just a personal failing, it reflects a broader issue we're seeing more of. Women who abandon the hope of love or marriage and instead choose to commodify their bodies. No man can love or respect a woman more than she respects herself. That internal value, or lack of it, radiates outward and is deeply felt, even subconsciously. There's often unaddressed trauma behind these choices. When a woman consistently chooses temporary validation or financial security over the long-term fulfillment of a healthy relationship and family, it's not empowerment, it's a cry for healing. True empowerment is about discernment, discipline, and self-worth, not just beauty. Draya had every opportunity to choose differently. Her story reminds us that external beauty doesn't guarantee wisdom, nor does it equate to morality or self-respect. In the end, it's the internal choices, not the outward image, that define a woman's legacy. We have to talk about the children, the real victims of these decisions. These are not bargaining chips, these are souls. Innocent lives brought into a battlefield between 2 adults warring for control, validation, or paycheck. There is a spiritual cost to bringing life into the world through manipulation. When the womb is used as a weapon rather than a sanctuary, it produces instability, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. Proverbs 14:1 says, "The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down." When you try to build a legacy through deceit, you're not building a house, you're building a prison. A house divided cannot stand, Mark 3:25, and too often these homes are divided before the child even arrives. Children born in dysfunction absorb stress. Even in the womb, babies can feel the mother's emotional state. Science confirms this. Stress hormones like cortisol can affect fetal development. Spiritually, the Bible speaks of generational curses, patterns of brokenness passed down because the root never gets healed, and too often the cycle begins with manipulation. We also can't forget what God says about the intention behind life. Psalm 127:3 declares, "Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him." But when a child is conceived in deceit, That reward can become a responsibility neither parent is emotionally or spiritually ready to carry. The child enters a world where love is conditional and resentment is inherited. And this is where I speak from experience. My own mother tried to trap my father twice. She had 2 children, not because she wanted to nurture life, but because she thought a baby would make him stay. When he didn't, she didn't just mourn the relationship, she turned bitter. That bitterness spilled out onto me and my sibling. We became the collateral damage of her broken fantasy. I was the second child. Maybe she thought, if one baby didn't keep him, maybe the second will. That's probably why, when I was 6 or 7, she told me she never wanted me, that she wanted to delete me through abortion. I had no business hearing that at such a young age, but these women are cruel. I had one job. I was supposed to keep her man. I failed. And the man she was chasing wasn't even worth it. No vision, no leadership, just tall and decent looking. Honestly, a bum. She had the better job, the better education, but she believed that if she couldn't keep a man, she was worthless. Her entire identity revolved around being chosen, not about choosing herself, and when she lost the man, she had no love left over for the children. This is why I say, getting pregnant to trap someone will never lead to peace. It may get you the child, but it will cost you the love. And worse, it may cost your child their sense of being wanted, seen, and cherished. What's really at stake? This isn't about baby mama drama. This is about a spiritual war over the next generation. The enemy wants to pervert the family structure, attack the womb, and raise a generation of children with no identity, no stability, and no true covering. I'm one of those children, and while I hold on to the hope of breaking this generational curse, of one day having a loving family of my own, where my children feel safe, supported, and deeply loved, it's not easy. Navigating life without the proper support of present and nurturing parents is a challenge that doesn't go away with age. No matter how old you get, there's always a part of you that longs for that parental guidance, that emotional safety net. But for adult children who were treated like pawns instead of people, used as leverage, tools, or emotional bait, we'll never know what that kind of support truly feels like, and that's the real tragedy. The enemy loves this. If he can break the home, he can break the child. And if he breaks the child, he breaks the future. Society doesn't like these conversations. It prefers my body, my choice, without acknowledging that with choice comes consequence, and not every consequence shows up right away. Some appear years later, in a child's confusion, in the mother's depression, in generational patterns that repeat because no one healed the root. We need to be honest about what's happening, because culture is lying to women. It's telling them that single motherhood is the ultimate independence, that trapping a baller is a flex, that child support is compensation for an absent father. But where's the healing? Where's the covering? Where's the spiritual leadership? Where's the legacy? Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." How do you train a child when you're still operating from unhealed trauma? How do you raise a future when you're still grieving the past? Children are not collateral. At the end of the day, we have to stop using children as emotional hostages. They are not leverage. They are not trophies. They are souls, and every soul that enters this world deserves to be loved, protected, and prayed over, not weaponized in a toxic tug of war between two adults who never should have been spiritually connected to begin with. The saddest part, many of these children grow up repeating the same cycles. Girls who watch their mothers trap men become women who do the same. Boys who watch their fathers abandon families become men who think that's normal. That's why we must speak. That's why we must heal. That's why we must call it what it is, spiritual warfare. This is why discernment matters. This is why spiritual alignment matters. And yes, this is why sexual purity matters. Not because God is trying to control you, but because He's trying to protect you. Sex is a covenant act. It binds. It transfers. It was never meant to be casual because it was never just physical. When done outside of God's design, it doesn't just open your body, it opens your soul. Through sex, you can inherit spiritual baggage you were never meant to carry. Curses, demons, marine spirits, and soul ties that entangle your destiny. I have videos on soul ties and marine spirits that go deeper into this. I urge you watch them because the level of spiritual warfare people are facing due to sexual looseness is overwhelming. You need to understand what you're really up against. This world is spiritual, and most of what you're struggling with isn't random. It's rooted in unseen realms. You can't fight it with logic or willpower alone. You need discernment, spiritual armor, and the covering of God. 1 Corinthians 6:18 says, "Flee from sexual immorality." Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. And in many cases, the fruit of that sin is not just heartbreak, it's an entire life created under spiritual confusion. This message is not about condemnation, it's about clarity. It's about responsibility, about breaking generational curses by being honest about where they begin. We can't glamorize baby mama culture and then complain about absent fathers. We can't normalize using pregnancy as a weapon and then wonder why relationships don't last. We can't bring children into spiritual warfare and then act confused when they grow up broken, angry, or lost. We must return to God's design: family, covenant, love, integrity, alignment. Because a child born out of lust will always struggle to find love unless we, as the adults, heal ourselves and stop using life as leverage. To every woman watching, you are so much more than your ability to conceive. Your womb is not a means to control, convince, or compensate for love. It is sacred ground, a vessel of life, legacy, and divine purpose. Let us stop creating broken homes just to prove we can survive alone. Let us start building godly homes, grounded in truth, anchored in purpose, and overflowing with peace. Because our children deserve to be born into love, not dysfunction, and we deserve to be loved and honored in a healthy union.